this session as well. So that way you can watch it back, or if somebody misses, they can watch it, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna switch to DocCam. And like I said, this is gonna be reviewed for some of you, and I apologize for that, but it just is what it is. Okay, so we started off with our image, and we did a full tracing of that image. And in some cases we used a light table. In some cases we use a window to allow us to see better. In some cases we use the brightness of our computer screen to be able to trace this through. And those of you that are just starting this project, this was a complete tracing that I then scribbled over later on. So we did a complete tracing. We flipped it over. We placed it onto white paper so we could see really, really well. And we traced through onto the back. And when we traced through onto the back, we made sure that our markings were very clear and they were very dark. And there was also a little bit of space in between every marking that we made. We did this because this lends itself more to a scratchboard and a scratchboard tool, which we're about to use today. The next step of the process, we took our scratchboard out of our packet and we taped the tracing paper to the scratchboard so it couldn't slide all over the place on us. And we taped it to the back. If we tape it to the front, it'll actually peel some of the scratchboard when you remove it later. So we taped it to the back and we made it like a hinge, like a door, so it's only attached on one side. And that way, as we're working, we can peel this back and check our work. The next step was to do a graphite transfer. So we scribbled across the front and we kept our lines really, really close together so that we can get a really, really good transfer onto the scratchboard. And not only are we transferring to the scratchboard, but what we're also doing is choosing an area that's most important or the point of emphasis, and we're transferring that area to a practice scratchboard. So all of you should have a smaller scratchboard or a like-size scratchboard in your packet. And for example, for mine, I'd want to figure out how to try and replicate the texture of the nose and the texture of the eyes against the texture of the fur, because it's different. So I'd want to transfer this area in mine to an additional scratchboard. I don't want to trace the whole thing all over again because that's just wasted effort. But I want to trace my most important area and my different textures and transfer those areas because it's just going to be better for me to try and figure that out on a practice sheet instead of scribbling all over my main sheet, okay? So that being said, and I know you're not all going to get to the scratching process today, especially because we have a shortened class period, but I want to show those of you that are ready what my expectation would be. I'm going to talk it through, okay? So when we get to the actual scratchboard, first of all, you want to have your visual aid out at all times because you constantly have to refer to your visual aid when you start to scratch. So you kind of have to feel your way through this to a point because for some people it's better to have their tool straight up and down. For some people it's better to have it on an angle like a pencil. For most of you it's going to be better to not have another sheet of paper underneath this. If this can bounce as you're working, you don't tend to get as clear of a marking. It's better if it can lay against a nice flat hard surface. When you start to remove texture, if it's an area that there's a whole lot of it cleared out, like this area that is showing the top of the nose, and I apologize, this was my sheet that I grabbed initially and just kind of demonstrated some techniques. This stuff through the middle doesn't really belong here, but for me, it's not being turned in for a grade, so I'm kind of okay with it. I'm going to just consider this my practice sheet. But when I start to work and I know an area is going to be removed, I still want to start out slow. So we're going to say up here where there's like a fur texture, and you can see that a little bit because I just transferred it. I want to start by just very slowly and very carefully picking from this, okay? And you may notice, and I know it's hard to see at home, probably hard to see in the classroom too as they look up at the board. So just listen to my words maybe as you're watching. You may notice that I'm trying to leave a little bit of black space in between all of my marks. Because with scratchboard, once you remove it from the scratchboard, you can't put it back. So it's better to not take enough initially than to take too much, and then you're kind of stuck. So if I know this area is going to be removed and a lot of it's going to be gone, I'm going to take just a little bit, kind of like when we did our flowers. So with our flowers, we addressed kind of all the intermediate values and all of the brights the same way, right? So if we had a petal like this and this area was really, really bright, we didn't make it super bright in the beginning. We made it kind of equal to the intermediate values. And then we went back and we brightened it up a little bit as needed. Scratchboard is going to be a similar process. We're going to address all of the intermediate values and the brights the same way, and then go back later on and pick out a little bit more and intensify those brights. I don't really want anybody to get beyond the practice sheet today. So either get it transferred to the practice sheet, or if it is transferred already, let's just work on the practice sheet today. It's a shortened period anyway. We're done at 33. Okay, and today, if I can just get everybody to stay online with me, you don't have to, let me just kind of switch back to my camera here. You don't have to keep your cameras on, but let's everybody stay online with me today. And that way, if somebody has a question they want to ask, the whole group can hear it. And you can probably hear the conversations that are happening within the classroom too, or at least I'll make sure that you can hear my side of it. So if I can get everybody to stay on today, but you can turn your cameras off if you wish. Okay? Anybody have any questions right off the bat? Everybody knows how to transfer everything? Because I know, okay, so Nathaniel, you're shaking your head no. Can you ask me a question and I'll try and answer it for you? Because I know you might not get everything right off the bat. And that's true for many of us. Nathaniel, do you have a question you want to ask? No. Anna, how are you doing?
Good. I'm listening to you walk.
Hey, hold on. I'm going to actually stop recording because there's no reason for you to be watching